So about a month ago, Mazda reached out and asked if I wanted to shoot a documentary as part of their Mazda Discovers series. And the series is basically where they get a creator, they take one of their fancy new cars, and they go and shoot and document a creative or a craftsman. And in my case, they wanted me to document the craft and the artistry of an artist who was based in Chamonix in France. His name is Jan Bajtlik. He is a Polish artist who is now obviously residing in France. What a beautiful place to shoot. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better location, really. And to be honest, the whole kind of subject matter kind of went hand in hand with the location. So I thought it'd be interesting to sit down and give you guys a little bit of a behind the scenes understanding of how I would go about shooting a project like this and how I would kind of make creative decisions, because I wanted to really tell a visual story with this piece, not just the narrative, not just the voiceover and obviously Jan's interview. I really wanted to create a strong visual narrative for this piece, and you'll actually see that throughout the video. But I think it's really important to start with story. Like with any film content documentary, specifically for documentaries, the story should always trump how the piece actually looks, feels, sounds, in my opinion. So for this particular piece, obviously Jan being an artist, I wanted to try and link what I do with filmmaking with the painting of an artist. So throughout the actual documentary, you'll notice how we kind of allude to painting with a brush and also painting with light. As a filmmaker, painting with light is something that just fascinates me. Like literally this scene that you're watching right now, I've got my key light, I've got a hair light, I've actually got an eye light as well, because I noticed that my eyes are really dark and dirty. And then I've got like a backlight up here painting the background blue, and obviously I've got a window there which I've diffused from the back. So I absolutely love painting a scene with light, and I really wanted to encapsulate them two different mediums of painting to create a link and allow that link to actually aid the story that we're trying to tell with this piece. You will notice that a lot of the questions that I was asking Jan during his interview was me really trying to pull like certain elements of this link out of him. So you'll notice when I ask him about the light and the reflections on the car and how that light is actually accentuated with what he does as a painter and also light in the car myself.
When I look for the surface of the car, I think the drawing and how the drawing will create the form which can work with the light.
It was really nice to actually link those two together and create, in my opinion, like a nice strong story bond. And obviously I hope that you guys kind of got that as well. And if you haven't gone and seen it, you can actually go and check out the film. It is already up on Mazda's YouTube channel, so go and check it out, and hopefully you guys will really appreciate the storytelling that I tried to achieve with this piece. Now, any decent documentary doesn't not have a solid team. Now, I took my friend Oliver Lochran, who is technically my main A-cam shooter these days. Whenever I've got like a big project on at the moment, Ollie is UK based and he's really nice and easy to work with. He's an incredible shooter, and whenever I'm actually in front of the camera, because for this particular piece Mazda wanted me to present as well as actually shoot and document this piece, I got Ollie to shoot them shots of me, and of course get Ollie to do the tracking shots out the back of the car, along with my assistant and my driver, Dale Sheldrake, who is actually training to be a stuntman. So that was really beneficial to have them two on board to help me try and achieve this look, this story. It's always a really great feeling when you've got a team around you that actually understand your vision. So I think before you start any project, try and give your team as much visual inspiration as you possibly can before you start a project, because then your entire team is going to be on your wavelength, they're going to understand what you're trying to achieve, and then you don't really have to do as much explaining on set. Everyone's on the same page, everyone knows what we're trying to get, and then everyone is just there to facilitate that vision. Now, I actually think I'm a little bit of a weirdo because I typically edit my project before I've even filmed it. So first thing I do is I get a selection of tracks out on my timeline. I got a few different tracks from Artlist, stuck them in the edit, and then decided how I want the vibe and the feel of this documentary to go before I even went there, which can sometimes be a bit of an Achilles heel because sometimes you want the story to tell itself while you're there, but I kind of already had a bit of an idea in my head of how I wanted this entire piece to feel, the vibe, and then I actually got a vibe off the music, and then I could decide the kind of lighting conditions I'd want, the kind of way I wanted to shoot it, to create the right pace, to set the tone with the music. And that edit really kind of helped me build these different sections in the edit that I had to then go and shoot. And you'll notice a lot of the time with the light painting at the start and technically the product shots of the car, I tried to shoot as much as I possibly could in blue hour, which is that hour after the sun set and also that hour before the sun rises. So just before and after golden hour. And the whole reason I wanted this kind of twilight vibe is because it was all very eerie at the start, and it also facilitates the whole idea of me painting the car with light. Obviously, you're not going to be able to see them reflections during golden hour or in the middle of the day, so I had to do them to kind of get this balance of blue light and also the red where we're painting the car. Now, when it comes to them light painting shots that we got of the Mazda 2, we basically just took the Mazda in the middle of the night into a forest where we had zero light pollution from either the moon or the city down in Chamonix. We took it into the forest, literally kept it static, and then moved the light in different ways to really get this nice dancing light all over the car. And then throughout the documentary, you will notice that I kind of link that with Jan's painting. And I asked him specifically if he could do red, and Jan was so accommodating. He literally worked his arse off to get these shots up in Chamonix at golden hour when he had so much work to do. He was so helpful to get all of these different shots, all within like the space of like an hour. We went up the mountain, down the mountain, in the forest so that we could get all of this great light. And he really listened to me as a creative, and I've got so much respect for that because he was such an incredible artist and he had his own style. And everything that he said during the interview where I was trying to like pick his brains about creativity and the way that he actually works, it's so amazing and so inspiring to hear from someone who doesn't really bend their own rules. They're like, I know what I like in my creativity and I don't really feel like I need to conform to anyone else's. He's got his own style and he's got his own kind of limitless mind on what he wants to do, but he stays within his own creative, and I've got so much respect for that. Now, when we got into Jan's workspace, he's got this massive big window that lets in a load of soft light because we didn't have any sun that day, and obviously all the snow outside really reflected that light, so it was nice and soft, like basically a big diffusion. But when I was actually getting the track out for this piece, it's really dark, it's really moody, and it's quite intense. And I wanted to really link his space with that feeling as he was painting, as he was creating different pieces of art. And I decided to actually just set up one singular light in his workspace, which was actually a practical. I brung all of these lights over from the UK and didn't end up using hardly any of them. I set up literally one of my little 60-watt Xeon lights to give him a little bit of a backlight. But other than that, we literally only used his one practical light throughout that entire piece. I wanted it to be incredibly dramatic. These big, long shadows from his paintbrush, really dark, moody, intense. And then that vibe was aided with the music and then also the kind of camera movement that we were using. Pretty much all of it was handheld. I wanted to go really close, tight up, these big contrasts in colour, the white canvas, the big red brushstrokes, the black pen, just like the white of the car. The car is a white canvas and we painted it with that red light. That was kind of the link that I really wanted to go for in this piece, and I really feel like we actually managed to achieve that, so I was super happy with like the outcome of that connection. Now, when it comes to productions with cars, obviously you have to have some tracking shots, and to really get those high production quality, intense car tracking shots, you are going to need a second car. So I stuck Ollie in the Mazda 2 to drive the car and then myself getting the tracking shots out the side of our chase car, because I really had these kind of set in stone ideas of how I wanted to shoot these tracking shots, and they came out absolutely perfectly. Obviously, they were all shot on a gimbal. You want that nice, breezy, low shutter speed so it looks like we're going super fast and really dramatic, really intense. But then a lot of the other shots of the car were done in 60p, really slowed down, nice, smooth, elegant. And I really liked how those contrasted with them faster paced, 24 frames a second, slow shutter, intense shots. And any car production obviously wouldn't be complete without a car rig. And I actually didn't previously have a car rig before this particular shoot. And obviously I got myself a car rig, done loads of different testing at home so that I could make sure that when I actually got on set, on location, when we was in Chamonix in France, we didn't waste any time. We got the perfect shot straight away. Just like with any different production, always test before you do a shoot, because I stuck my A7S on there with IBIS on And it did not enjoy it one bit, mate. So we had to have a locked off sensor. So I actually stuck the Blackmagic on there, which we ended up shooting most of this project on. The A cam for the interview was the Blackmagic. B cam was the A7S Mark III. And we had a really nice collaboration between these two different cameras so that we could really utilize what they were good at in different scenarios. Like, for example, the Blackmagic has got dreadful rolling shutter, in my opinion. So I wanted to use the Sony in a lot of those different shots where that rolling shutter would be a big issue. Now, when it comes to the actual pace of a documentary like this, obviously there's lots of different sections in this piece. We start off really fast and intense, then we slow it down, and then we slowly glide into this really intense painting scene, which was essentially created by the lighting, the pace and the music, and then obviously it drops back off into this much more kind of softer, more curved off ending. And during that painting scene, I wanted to shoot everything tight so that we only actually pulled out and kind of saw an establishing shot when we saw halfway through his painting piece, and then right at the end where we finished off on Jan's completely finished art piece, because I didn't want the viewer to open up into that space and get like a big view of what was going on. I kind of wanted to keep this mystery all the way throughout when he was painting. So you'll notice we start off really, really tight, and we slowly, over time, open up wider and wider so that we slowly kind of release this mystery and this tension. And then obviously on that final piece at the end, we open right up so we can see Jan, his entire workspace, and his finished product. So for me, your composition is so important when you're trying to build tension and try and build up a story for your viewer to kind of be hooked on. So really think about your focal length choice, your lens choice, and also how you actually structure those in the edit, because that is going to make such a big difference to how your audience is feeling. If you open up right at the start and you've got this big establishing shot where you can see the entire room, everything going on in there, you're not really leaving anything up to imagination or mystery. But sometimes that can obviously work in your favour. Usually I establish my scene with a nice big establishing wide shot, a drone shot, or a wide tracking shot to actually establish our audience into the scene. But then other times I want to hold on to that tension until right towards the end where we open up and we actually show the audience our environment. And I've actually done that on quite a lot of my different pieces. If you remember Isolation Insanity, tight shots until we open up wide, and that wide literally tells the whole story. So you'll probably notice throughout this piece, I really try super hard to make sure that focal length is used strategically. I don't just use a shot because it looks nice. Anyone can make a shot look nice, especially with a beautiful car, great light and incredible colours. It's really easy to make something look good, but how do you actually use your focal length and different angles to tell a story and hold on to your audience's excitement for the story? And Mazda was such a dream to work with. They give me so much creative freedom, which in my opinion is the only thing that you want as a creative. As soon as you're allowed that creative freedom, it's almost like the sky's the limit for your production. As soon as you kind of got bars and everything around it, it starts to get a bit like, ugh, you don't really enjoy it and you can't sit into the flow of your production. So thanks to Mazda for trusting me with a project like this. Definitely one of my favourite projects I've ever done. I will leave the link in the description so that you can go and check out the entire Mazda Discovers piece, because I am actually really happy with it. Anyway, you lot, thanks so much for watching my video. I really hope that it was beneficial for you and you kind of got a good behind the scenes look on a production like this. And as always, mate, I'll be catching you lot in the next one, mate. Bosh.